Hey everybody, Coach Dan here. Today we are talking about training load. Is it better to be overtrained or undertrained? How do you know which is which? What do you do when you think you're getting close to one or the other? Stick around, I'll tell you all about it. Being overtrained is basically just that you're doing work again before your body's had a real chance to adapt to the last stimulus or the last workout. Now, doing that once or twice or a bunch of times over a training block isn't that big a deal, but doing it consistently over time is going to lead to meaningful fatigue. That fatigue is going to show up on the starting line, and when you get there ready to race, if you're overtrained, the likelihood of you putting in a peak performance you're going to be really proud of is pretty slim. Whereas if you get to the starting line a little undertrained, well, you can dig deep, rely on that mental fortitude, and get the job done. The goal in training is to get as close as you can to that max training load or training effort before a race, or any type of peak performance, without going over. It's kind of like Price is Right in that way. So how do you know if you're getting close or if you're over that training load? Well, the problem with overtraining is that you don't actually know until you're there. And then it's a little bit late to get the job done right. But there are some signposts along the way. I want to tell you what those are today and then what to do about them. Hey, if you like this video and you want more like it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It'll help other people find videos like this one. The first one is recovery. If you notice that you're sore a little longer than you should be, if you've got those little niggling injuries that maybe they're not getting better as quickly as you'd expect them to, that rolled ankle that just seems to hang around for a long time, that's your first indicator of potential overtraining. Don't ignore that stuff. If you think you should be better or feeling better than you are, well, then pay attention to it. Another big one for me is general fatigue. If my legs feel tired on a run when there's no good reason for it, if it's mid-afternoon and I've got that weird energy slump at my desk, well, sometimes that means that I'm getting close to being overtrained. Also, if my sleep is interrupted, if I'm not getting good sleep, chances of me resting and recovering for any type of meaningful training load are really slim. Sometimes that sleep interruption is because of the training, sometimes it's because of something else. Which brings me to a really important point. Training and training load is all a cumulative thing. So the stress in your life, how time constrained you are, whether or not you're eating properly and sleeping properly, taking vitamins and supplements that work for your body, all of these things matter. If you're doing all of that right, the training load that you can handle is much, much higher than if you're struggling in any of those areas in your life. So make sure you try to get all those things in check. It's going to make the overtraining piece a lot more easier to see coming, and you'll be able to just handle a ton more training. Another big sign that you're getting close to overtraining is your resting heart rate. If your resting heart rate is a little higher than you're accustomed to, chances are that's your body telling you that something's not exactly right. You know, all these physiological things are important, but for me, it comes down to how I feel about running. That's the first sign that I'm overtraining. If I don't want to go for a run, like if I just am feeling a little burnt out, or even worse, if a normal daily run doesn't cure my often brutal grumpiness, well, that's a sign that maybe I'm doing a little bit too much. Another sign for me is that if I settle for a treadmill run instead of getting out on a beautiful trail like this one, it means I'm just logging the miles because I think I'm supposed to log the miles. I've lost the joy of it. That happens for me when I'm close to overtraining. So those are important signposts that you're on your way to doing too much. If you start to feel those things, see them coming, it's time to change tactics. Here's what you do. You got to get back to basics. Focus on sleep, focus on actual rest and recovery time. If cryotherapy, like cold water dips or time in a sauna, something like that works for you, then really focus on it if you start to think you're getting near that overtraining level. Sleep, 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 sleep. Yeah, I mean it. You've got to get a ton of sleep if you're going to recover well, especially if you're on the cusp of overtraining. Focus on diet, whatever that means for you. Make sure that your nutrition is dialed in a way that works for your body and for your mind. These are ways to overcome that overtraining cycle, but you can't let it go too long. If you do, there's just no way to make up for it other than stopping. Take some time, get some real rest, take a little break from running. Your body needs it and your mind needs it. If you've got a race coming up, a peak performance opportunity that you've been working toward for a long time, it's really important to pay attention to this overtraining metric. Johnson and House, in their book Training for the Uphill Athlete, give us a pretty good indication of how much training is too much based on what you did last year. So if you stay at 10% of your previous block's training load by either volume or time, so the amount of mileage you've put in or the amount of time you've spent training, if you increase that by 10% year over year, chances are you're not going to get busted up from an overtraining point of view or an injury point of view, you can keep going at that 10% increase year over year, and chances are you're going to stay pretty safe. That's a great metric, but sometimes that's not enough for us. Sometimes we want to increase by more than 10% year over year, and that's where paying attention to those signposts that you're on your way to overtraining becomes very, very important. If you want to hear more about that 10% rule and a bunch of other cool training tips, check out this video over my shoulder right now.